Happy New Year, everybody. We are live, definitely live. We're bigger than before. My waist. Good to see you. It's Monday, the 5th of January 2026, and the leaked rumours of the contents, the plot, the characters, the style, and the purpose of the 2026 Christmas special have been shared by Andrew, the phantom leaker online who tends to get most of his information correct. A lot of it confirms what my source has been telling me, and I have shared with you already in streams. So this is a good time to get down into the reeds of this with another Sensoryous panel and really look at whether we are happy or not about this. So yes, another special. They love their word special. Are they special? Another Christmas Doctor Who? I'm not sure if I'm a lover of them, really. Of course, my source has declared his hand before, which echoes how a lot of us feel. How many people are given this many opportunities to get things right. I mean, RTD, how many chances do you get? As you can see, my source says, I have zero interest in any more RTD. Well, you're getting one more, mate. Right, so as you know, hopefully by now, the way I operate, we will look at every rumour and leak from Andrew and we will judge it. You can see we can give it the green tick going, we approve of that. We think that works. We'll also say survey says no, computer says no. And then there's maybe those that might be a bit more questionable in the middle. So we'll have a bit of a game as we go through these leaks, everybody. Because I suppose rather than damning it all, we're going to judge each one on its merits and disadvantages, okay? That's the plan. And just to give you another taste of my source, said this ages ago, and I shared it with you ages ago. They go into production Feb, Marchish. The challenge they face is that by the time it goes out, the show will have been unwatched by the wider public since Tennant returned. Yeah, that's very, very true. And you will just see, and like I said, I'm going to bring my panel on any second now, but as you can see, Andrew before has said various things in previous leaks, and we're going to note these when we look at this fresh new one. So, for example, he talks about there should be, it looks as though it might be a multi-doctor story. It should be about 90 minutes long. Susan will have a large part to play. And it's kind of based on the premise of a Marvel, what if we made the last ever episode, so to speak. That's what he said ages ago. Then he also said ages ago that this is the final episode of RTD. Hooray! My source had said that as well. The Daleks are in it, Billy Piper, David Tennant, maybe a shooty cameo, that they're pushing for Pete McTighe to be the showrunner. Right, so there you go. Hold on to these notes and ideas as we discuss Andrew's fresh new leaks and ideas. Okay, so let's go to it now. Get my panel on. They're here, they're ready. Hopefully well fed and everything. So, Goldie, you've been a great addition to our channel. It's always great to see you. Happy New Year to you, Goldie.
Happy New Year and Happy New Year to everyone in the chat. It's good to be here to talk about the leaked information regarding the 2026 Christmas special. Oh, I mean, this year I'm planning on having a fabulous year, going to try and get everything back on track, try and, inject some more life into my life. But however well this year goes, we will have this Christmas special at the end looming over us. And hopefully it doesn't suck all that joy out.
I know. Goldie had posted to everybody on Twitter saying he's full of his resolutions and how he's going to do this and do that. And there's me pestering him over rumours of a Christmas special. Yeah, but anyway, great to see you on, Goldie. And of course, we have Mark. Both of these devils were helping me with the Sea Devils spin-off for our reactions. But good to see you, Mark. Happy New Year.
Hello, Happy New Year to you too. Thankfully, I haven't drowned myself after the war between the land and the sea, although I felt like maybe I should have done.
Yeah, and Pete McTighe might get mentioned later on because that's mentioned in one of the parts of the leak. But I'm full of promises and I'm going to get moving. So here's the first one, lads. Now, this was all in Andrew's, detailed, kind of format and summary of all the leaks. But I've broken them down so that we can really go at it. So this is Russell T Davies's final episode. So loose ends may be tied up. Now, I'm smiling. It's about time. Although Goldie, I'm amazed that he's been given a chance to rectify, resolve, if that's what's in his mind. Because most of us, if we do a bad job, you're just out. And I like my football. If a football manager's sacked, like were today, you don't get time to say, "Can I just do one more match and sort a few things out?" You just go. I'm amazed that the BBC are giving him one more go at this.
I loved the way one fan described this on Twitter somewhere, where they said, this is like asking the arsonist to come back and put out the fire. That's exactly what this is like, because RTD's the one that's caused all of this mess. But at the same time, I can understand why they'd be like, right, get your ass back in here, fix all this up, because after this, you're out, we're moving on. And with this era in particular, there's so many loose ends, there's so many plot threads that are unresolved. You've got cameos of characters that are promised to, suggest a higher storyline, but they don't get brought back. And there's all these little mentions of things that never come to fruition. So hopefully this episode will bring all this together so that we can just move on afterwards, and there's no possibility of any of this rubbish being brought up again in the future.
And yet, Mark, I do so many streams where people quite wisely, as Doctor Who fans say, don't tie up Timeless Children. Don't tie up that. Don't mention the half-human Doctor again. Just move forward. If you mention it more, you're digging it more into canon. So why do we, as Farsight says here, for example, why do we need to tie up loose ends? Why do we need RTD to continue?
Well, I mean, I'll preface this by saying that this Christmas, I did not miss having a Christmas special on at all. I thought, thank God, we've got a rest here. We've got a pit stop where we're not going to have something that's rushed out for the sake of having something Doctor Who on at Christmas. Yeah, we got the war between the land and the sea, but I was really pleased that I didn't have to think, oh, not another one, and lose my interest in a Christmas special or anything Doctor Who related. It's an interesting point that you make about tying up loose ends. If we think about where the revived era started from, it came from a place where there were no loose ends. It was a completely blank slate. Whatever came prior to Christopher Eccleston, his incarnation coming along, we had no idea at that point. And there was something really refreshing about that. There was something really refreshing, not just as a long-time fan, but I think for a general audience who are coming into this new. And let's face it, I think the audience has dwindled to such a point that I think anybody coming into the show now would need to come in at a point where they don't have to have really a considerable backlog of plot points to catch up on. Bring them in at a really fresh point where we can only guess what may have happened between where Ncuti Gatwa regenerated into Billy Piper.
This was the plan of RTD. Apparently, in the first place, he gave interviews saying, "I don't want episodic. I don't want this. I don't want that, because I want people to, He always went on about classic Doctor Who Part 3. Who's going to tune in if they miss the first two parts? And now it feels like, as you're saying, you need a degree to access Doctor Who. I mean, it sounds as though the three of us are saying this, that garbage made for me.
Sack Russell T Davies, and I'll come back. The first series was a mess. It was to do with the people who were supposed to make it.
I say this is how we see Davros now, without the facial scarring, without the wheelchair or his this.
Welcome to the Weakest Link.
Very, very proud of the fact that we have.
And it's dead. Steady splits in half. 2 doctors.
You are the Weakest Link. Goodbye. Then you are unemployed.
Think of it, wherever society is, that's where you should. Awful lot of people have masturbated over my work and come up to me and tell me.
Sack Russell T Davis. Sack Jane Tranter.
Play the weakest link. Another way of saying unemployed.
Unemployed soon. Yes, there you go. So we'll have a look at one or two things. Farsight, thank you very much. Bringing RTD back to save the show is like sticking your head on the block and hoping the executioner doesn't pull a lever. And don't be like blooming Anne Boleyn, because that was crazy missing you. I'm looking forward to the new series of Line of Duty than I am Doctor Who, says Toonam, because they don't bring it back every year. Now, we've got news on that from the leak, actually, on how the how the BBC might perform in future and see this as setting the standard. But I just want to very quickly say, before we do continue our chat, hello to Peter Paints-a-Lot, Julie, Daryl Joyce, Woodhouse, Sadako, Jack Dexter, Tom Bychick, Stephen Braddock, there's a few Stephens in, Orty, there's plenty in, and of course Mad Mackham, who has forgiven us for winning for once. Thank you very much. I see a glass Dalek with legs will need a new TV. Oh gosh, yes, we've got talk about the Daleks and how they're getting designed. So there's plenty to talk about in a moment. So thank you for that, everybody. I'll reward a bit later, but we'll move on. So yes, on this RTD talk, this is one of the big loose ends, Goldie. I mean, he's not going to avoid this, Goldie. I mean, I think we're going hook, line and sinker into the Billy Piper, the Rose, the... I was hoping we weren't going to see the She-Hulk again.
Yeah. This is of course the biggest loose end, because this was the final frame which acted as the cliffhanger of the reality war, and I can see why a lot of fans are frustrated and they're saying, well, why can't we just move on? We don't even need to tie up the loose ends, just move on. But as we've seen from all these writers who are in the Fitzroy clique and all these other people that occupy show business, they love everything to fit together. And I can understand, to some extent as a fan, why we like having a suitable chronology. But here's the thing, you kind of need RTD to kind of fix this up, even though I know it's not going to be any good, but you do need to. Otherwise, that if they just cancelled the show now and brought it back in however many years' time, then those writers would inevitably be like, right, there is a gap between the shooty Doctor, and then we've got Billy Piper's appearance, then we've got this new Doctor, and they'll try and fit different Doctors in between that little gap, and they'll try and mess all it up. That's just something that we know is going to happen if they did go down the route of just not even bothering to clear this up. Someone in the future would try and tie it back. So you do kind of need someone like RTD to properly wrap it up, but properly, so that when it comes to the end of this episode, that's it. They can do a clean slate if they want to. And then like, as Mark said, if they revive it again, they should do a Christopher Eccleston type revival where, right, you've got the Doctor, you've got a companion, you've got the TARDIS. You don't really need to mention what's come before. In the revival, for instance, Gallifrey was first mentioned in series 3. So they went 3 series without mentioning Gallifrey. And then the first time I believe you saw any of the previous Doctors was the next Doctor, which was part of the series 4 specials, where you get that little flashback of all the previous Doctors. And so they naturally unfolded the lore that way. But as you said, this Disney era was intended as a fresh start for viewers, but every single episode was like a highlight reel of the previous eras. You had mentions of all the other Doctors. You had Susan, you had Sutek, you had Omega, you had the Rani, and like you said, it's almost like you need to have a data log of all previous Doctor Who lore to even begin to understand it.
Yeah, I mean, I know some people who, when they watch Line of Duty, keep all their clues and all the rest of it. And if you're watching Traitors, keep all the clues. But this is Doctor Who, for God's sake, escapism. I don't want a degree in it. I mean, just as you mentioned it before I come to Mark, I mean, these are the loose ends I'm thinking of, and I don't think I've missed them, got them all. The Boss is mentioned. I'll come back to that later. Susan, the Rani, there's still one about. Poppy, the Master, he's a gold tooth. I'm sure some dentist will sort that out. Rogue, he's in hell at the moment. Some great nightclub in hell. Mavity, the Bi-Generation, the Fantasy TARDIS, the 14th Doctor. There's plenty to go on, but Mark, it says 90 minutes. How is all this going to be sorted? And as somebody's just said I think Stephen O'Neill has said, just can we just do the loose ends in the Children in Need special and just get on with life?
I half suspect that this is going to be a bit of a PR campaign to retire Russell T Davies. I think it'll be built as this is the guy who brought Doctor Who back for the last 20 plus years. And we're going to give him a nice swan song to wrap this all up. And I think it'll be pretty much centered around that. And I think plot wise, from the little bits I've seen from the Rumours, it strikes me as a bit like the end of time when Russell T Davies first bowed out. He brought back all the greatest hits of his era, cameos left, right, and center. I suspect it's going to be something of the same with the Daleks in there somewhere, using up the unused pieces of Carol Ann Ford's supposed film sequences that were left out of the end of the last series, and somehow mishmashing that all together.
Oh, it sounds like a goal. It sounds like when you used to watch those American series like Golden Girls, and at the end they do a highlights reel where they talk, or Friends, where they talk about certain clips. It sounds a bit like that. I know it's a bit worrying. Lex Kane, good to see you. And thank you very much, of course. RTD's new love interest was about aged 8 when he watched 2005. Oh, you're mentioning you know what. I obviously, you know me, Lex Kane. I will always play the ball, not the man. I also get a feeling his love interest will be the Doctor. I don't think so. I don't think so. I think what's happening there is separate. You've got to remember Lex Kane, and we're going to show you more of the rumours tonight, of course, as I break them all up. But one of the mentions that Andrew makes is that they're looking for a new showrunner. My source has said that. My source said ages ago RTD was out. I was just surprised he got this bonus episode. So Lex Kane, thanks for your generosity. I actually don't think what you're saying there is going to play out. I think it's just a mixing of private life and public life. Unfortunately, on Instagram and putting him in the TARDIS and all that stuff. I think that's where it's all got a bit murky. But I think we're going to get a professional. I think the BBC know they've got to get this right, and that's partly what the leak looks like to me. So let me just say thank you for that. People are being very nice and generous, but as you know, I normally have a generous way of saying thank you. So here, I'll tickle the ivories here. Hello. Yes, let's see what else we can talk about regarding this RTD special, his last one. As my source said, he's doing it on his own terms. He was out of contract, so he's not signing for the special to be edited. He's got so many other projects he could just pass and say he's too busy. So the concern is, Goldie, he will just come flying in, and as Mark has said as well, all his ideas. And the thing is, Goldie, he said also in the Radio Times recently that when he showed his ideas for the Christmas special, the BBC boss's jaws were agape. I know what happens, but I better write it down soon, he says. But I've told them what's in it, the plot details, and with jaws agape, they're loving it. Oh my gosh, I can't wait, Goldie.
Yeah, I can just imagine. You have to think, though, right, if this is his last story, just let him go in there, just put everything he needs to so that we can just move on. Because, we just want to be done with all this. We don't want to be going forward thinking about, when's Tennant's 14th Doctor going to show up again? And what happened with his TARDIS? And what's happening with Susan? What's happening with this Poppy girl? What's happening with this person? That just let him have his fun, and then he can piss off. Yeah, that's all I'm really concerned with. I bet he went into that room and he's like, I've got a plan for this 2023 Christmas special. It's so marvelous. Oh my god, there's gonna be so many cameos. It's gonna be so fun. We're gonna have loads of appearances by David Tennant, and we'll try and get Rylan in. Oh, he'll be marvelous. I bet he said all that bollocks that he always does. But you know what? He can have his 90 minutes, then we'll all be waving. He can exit the door. He can go off, do what other rubbish he's doing. I have no doubt that this is going to be the same old. It's gonna have all of his, it's gonna have all of his favorite people in there. He's gonna come across as very spiteful. He's gonna have all of his messaging. He's probably, having reflected on the reception of the previous 2 seasons, gonna have more digs at the fans. There'll probably be some fan inserts. There'll be the evil stereotypical character that we're all supposed to laugh at, which represents us as the fans. It's going to just be the same old, really. I have no, but and if he is bragging about, they loved my brilliant idea, you just know he's so up himself, and it's gonna just be a story which pats him on the back.
So happy New Year, everybody. Bungle Bear here. Everything's got to come together eventually thing became a problem for the Bond films, and they ended up tied in so many story knots it nearly killed Bond off. I take your point. Graham, good to see you. I generally can't see the average non-fan viewer given a toss. I agree. It's a dangerous game, this. Doctor Who has to, as that Dalek said, it has to elevate. It has to be accessible to mainstream. And as Mark said earlier, getting us bogged down in stuff is no good. Tomboy Chick, 90 minutes of pure torture. And we're forgetting about the CBB series. Tomboy Chick, your New Year's resolution is never to mention it again. Stephen Braddock, if RTD is bringing back Tennant as the 14th Doctor, how the hell is he going to explain where he's been with everything that's happened on Earth? He was taking a sabbatical, Stephen. It's allowed. If you take a sabbatical, you can't interfere. Yeah, I know. It makes no sense at all. As if the Doctor has that sort of dodgy morals. Twins of Foam, good to see you. Welcome aboard. Happy New Year. Doctor Who has been terrible since The Leisure Hive. Whoa! Going way back. If you saw it today, you would know what I mean. J&T and now RTD killed Doctor Who. The issue about the J&T era is later on, I did think by the 20th anniversary and starting to do lots of flashbacks in Mordrin Undead and then doing it in something else. And in the end, I did think we were starting to fall into fan service. So I can see where you're coming from there. Mark, what's coming into mind regarding what we're saying about RTD and him doing it his way? My way, as Frank Sinatra would say.
Well, I think a good retirement present for him would be a Hawaiian shirt. I think that would go down a treat. Very, very JNT. You made an interesting point, Brendan, when we were talking about the war between the land and the sea, where a lot of the PR was around, isn't it great? Isn't it this? Isn't it that? And you made the point that it's like somebody marking their own homework. I was listening to a podcast the other day, and it was Michael Dorn from Star Trek Next Generation talking about the difference between Star Trek that's made now as opposed to when he was starring in the role. And he said, you got to a point where the showrunner is almost godlike, and the cast are just there to say the line, and there's no co-production, no collaboration there. And he says that's a very dangerous situation to be in, whereas when he was in place, Gene Roddenberry was still around, and he just said Gene Roddenberry had this open door policy. Anybody could come in and discuss things with him, and there was no us and them. And I think unfortunately what's happened is Russell T Davies is kind of come into this situation where he's become almost like a godlike figurehead for Doctor Who, and maybe we need to pare it back to a point where do we really need to know who it is who's running the show? We just need to know that the storylines are good and it's going to be good entertainment. Do we really need to know who the figurehead is behind that?
Well, it's like this with a lot of these franchises. You look at DC, it seems to be more about James Gunn than any of the people actually on the screen. And the same with Doctor Who. It seems like RTD gets pushed out more than the actors who are supposed to sell the show. And yeah, it's just one big, passion project for them. There's no actual thought that goes into it. How we're going to appeal to the audience? It's just right. Okay, what is it that I want? I'm going to write that down. All the actors have to do exactly what I want. There's going to be no room for compromise. And if anyone has a problem with it, then they're all these bunch of nasty names that they just call us all the time. It's ridiculous. As you say, we should get back to a point where there can be a central figurehead, that's a producer or someone who is at the top, but at the same time you need a variety of writers, different people to come in with different ideas. You can find a middle ground, because if you just have one person just having their spin on everything, then it's just so homogenized, and that's something that you can feel a lot with this most recent season of Doctor Who. Even the episodes not written by RTD, they have his fingerprints all over them, because you just know that they've been heavily edited. He's probably gone in there, right, I want this to be like this character needs to be like that, and so it just becomes one sort of big blob, even though Doctor Who stories mostly are all different, and we've got to a point now where they are just all the same, because it's just RTD's tropes. Just you can just go down the list and just take them off. But
and to join that point, part of the leak is that he's pushing for Pete McTime. We'll come to that slide later, so I'll park that for now. But basically, we don't want this kind of Buggins turn. My mate's here and he's had... No, somebody brand new who, do you know what, RTD might do it a completely different way. That's what Doctor Who needs. And, I've been talking to my friends who have been watching Stranger Things, and it's a shocker that Stranger Things can go so much darker for family entertainment, and Doctor Who goes lighter and frothier. RTD has just missed an open goal. Stranger Things goes episodic. Doctor Who decides to just mess around with quick nonsenses.
I think we've lost sight of the fact that Doctor Who, as its original premise was to create a sense of fear, and there wasn't anything disturbing about that. Particularly, it was quite healthy to be frightened when you were young, whereas I think it's this whole nannying of young people, and we can't be seen to frighten them too much.
Yeah, well, exactly. Recently I talked about Innes Lloyd season 5, monster season, where he really got them scared. Lex Kane. What classic Doctor Who would work as a movie? Oh my God, where do you start? If only I had my Tomb of the Cybermen Who Pets video there. That would be one of them. Classic Who. I'd love a... Oh God, where do you start? I could have Deadly Assassin. I'd love a Deadly Assassin version of Doctor Who, movie style. Of course, I love my Planet of the Daleks. I mean, Daleks can sometimes look really good, I think, on a more expensive budget too, as we know from the 2 movies. Oh, I could go to town on this. But it's interesting. Sometimes when you say movie, you're thinking of scale. But it's some of those classics which are very intimate, like Horror Fan Rock or Robots of Death. Now, Robots of Death done on a bigger budget, it would be interesting. But of course, how can you improve on a classic is the other killer. Farsight also, thank you very much for your generosity. The problem with letting RTD finish his era is there won't be an audience left to justify another series. Colin, you're saying almost exactly the same thing as my source said, and you'll see the slide a little bit later. Oti, Brendan, I have a question, and it's to do with my writing. There's a scene where it becomes a what if. Should I make the Doctor the Valiant or the Time Lord Victorious? Oti, it's a dangerous one, this, isn't it? Lots of people are saying, don't touch the Valiant ever again. That's Michael Jason's role. Time Lord Victorious, I hated the Time Lord Victorious. Stop playing with our Doctor. So, oh gosh, I've got a few kind of... that's only my opinion, by the way, and the lads might jump in a minute. But Richard Coleman, thank you very much. Now, I'm going to thank you properly in a second. Goldie's right with his view. RTD's last 2 seasons have proven how he views Who and the majority of its fans. Disrespect. He looks down on us, and he will do whatever the heck he feels like with his special. I've always said... when he writes the Sutek character or the Omega character or the Toymaker character, he's projecting psychologically how he feels about his ownership of Doctor Who, it seems to me. He's like the Snoopy squatting on the TARDIS. So thank you to all those who've sent those super chats in. That's Happy New Year. Thank you very much. I should thank you. There's various ways I can say thank you. Some of my videos now are going to scare you, though. Here's one.
Now the news is in, and we learn of a Christmas special penned by Russell T Davies. What can we expect? More of the same messaging against Trump and Farage and anyone on the right, using Doctor Who as his own personal political platform. Will we be overwhelmed with more DEI and inclusivity agendas? Crazy storylines and character arcs? What classic monster or villain will he ambush and vandalize next? Stick with the Sense Sphere to experience the next stormy waters for Doctor Who. Let's see what he serves up next. Dog's bollocks, or more like a dog's breakfast. Whatever happens, the Who pets welcome you on board.
Yes, thank you, everybody, and stick with us. We'll certainly be the channel, amongst others, who we will cover all this in detail. So he says he hadn't started writing it yet. Well, it's going to start filming in February, March. So yeah, again, hype, crap. Because the next minute, lads, he's telling us ages ago in 2024, he said, I'm on my 4th script now for season 3. He said in the Imagine documentary, he's already planned 2026 and beyond. You know, it's hype and mixed with lies. Now, Goldie, looking at that list there, and I know I've missed some out by accident, but if they are going to... I don't think we should cover all the loose ends, because I don't think there's a plot that exists that would do that, Goldie. But are there any things there that you as a Doctor Who fan personally would just like sorted out before we move on?
Well, if you're talking about me personally, I don't consider anything from Twice Upon a Time onwards to be canon. So for me, I don't really care about any of this, but I think if they are going to focus on a few, then it should be the Tenant Doctor, his TARDIS, and probably Susan. It's a tough one because I don't want Susan to come back in this era because I like the character of Susan, so I know he's going to bastardize her. But at the same time, you can't just show a clip of Susan in the recent season of Doctor Who, and that's all we get of her, and then that's never explained. And then, you know, unfortunately, you know, Carol Ann Ford is, you know, getting up there in age. So you do want to have her in the show again while she is around because, you know, sadly, she probably won't be with us for much longer. So it would be annoying if her last ever appearance in Doctor Who is a split-second little, you know, flashback, whatever that thing was, and then we get nothing else of her.
Yeah, that would be disappointing. Dalek Shalom. Interesting point you're making about East Asian writers, spiritually, historically, philosophically, intellectually, scientifically challenging. One of my best mates, aged 84, very, very bright kooky. She watches a lot of South Korean drama and she says it's so much more interesting than the dross we get in this country. So I get your point, Dalek Shalom, that we need to widen our scope and getting RTD or Sally Rainwright. I mean, wait till you see the rumours later about who they're thinking of getting if it isn't going to be Pete McTighe. You just think it's just more of the blooming same. So, yeah, now on that list, Mark, is there anything where you're going, look, we can park a lot of stuff, but can we please sort that out so that the new series, when it happens, can just move on and we've got none of this crap hanging around?
Yeah, I mean, I think the Master, just leave that where it is. Let a new person come along and pick that up and run with it. It hasn't been a thing for the last couple of years, and they can do anything which way with that they want. For me, it would be the bi-regeneration and the spare TARDIS. I just thought that was such an absolutely silly plot point, and I think it disrespected the law of the show. I don't mind the law of let's experiment with swapping genders of the incarnation. I think that's absolutely fine, but when you start going down, oh, this character can split off like a worm dissected, I think it gets very messy very quickly. And there was, I think it was just for the sake of trying to look new and trendy and different. And I just think just stick with the basic premise of the show is that this character can regenerate themselves into one single person and can't split off forever in a day.
Oh no, splinters are bad. We all know that from being
And
a
a
kid.
cartoon Who Framed Roger Rabbit hammer mallet that whacked a new TARDIS
Oh no,
out of the other one. I mean, it's cringeworthy.
You give me really bad memories now. Stefan Lipskin, I say leave the master alone. Let the new showrunner do it. You're all coming up with loads here. So I'm just intrigued that you're not going to get Jonathan Groff back. So Rogue's just stuff in hell forever. The master, yeah, I don't want the master touched. I don't want the Daleks touched. Well, it looks as though I'm going to fail on that one. Susan, I don't want touched. The boss is an interesting one because it does get mentioned in the leak, and we're going to come to some of those other details. But yes, Susan, please don't touch. We've survived without her up to now. There's been many opportunities where plot-wise you would have had Susan in it. It would have been interesting. We've missed those opportunities. Don't just throw her in now. Yeah, we're going to get the 14th Doctor according to the rumours. So yeah, more of that, even though David Tennant seems to be overdone. Poppy, I'm shocked that nobody in the thread and none of my panelists have said, we really need to know about the welfare of that child. Because none of us care. Poppy, who cares? Who cares? She's under some brick somewhere. Who cares? And of course, Rose Noble. Oh, yeah. With her Metacrisis brain. So, and the Rani. The Anita Dobson Rani. Would she come back just to do a one-liner? I doubt it. So there's plenty there to be thinking about. So we will continue with the leak, everybody. The leak said that the draft script is currently circulating the BBC as pre-production rapidly gets underway. Goldie, I don't like the word rapid. Rapid means we're going to do that kind of RTD, blah, 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 bing, bing, sorted, and then hype it to death. That's what worries me, Goldie. It really does.
Yeah, I think, well, whether they rapidly get it made or whether it takes a bit of time, it's going to be the same thing anyway. You know, Russell seems very set in his idea of what he wants to do with this special, and knowing the influence he has, he's going to get his own way. There's really no doubt about that. What was I going to say? Yeah, this special, we know that Tennant's probably going to come back. I mean, he's not really doing anything else these days, as all of his projects seems to be flopping left, right, and centre. But the only person who really seems to be taking him back is Russell, who is always open to just working with them, because Russell likes his little close group of friends. And yeah,
don't worry.
The thing is, what I'm wondering is that they're going to have to start work on the next season, because the BBC have said that they're not only wanting to get the special out, they're also wanting to continue the show past this. They're going to have to get like pre-production underway for that sometime next year. Well, actually this year now. Otherwise, the earliest we're going to see this new season will be 2028, because we know that it takes around like 9 months of filming, and then you've got all the post-production, you've got all the editing and the color grading, all the visual effects. So that's like the better part of a year. So they're going to have to start getting some form of shooting done later this year. Otherwise, it's not going to be ready until 2028. And I feel like with the BBC, they're going to want to try and get this franchise back in a good shape. Otherwise, it really is screwed forever. Even though I personally think it could do with being rested for a few years. We, get the bad taste out of everyone's mouth. But part of me is just thinking logistically, and they're really going to have to start getting some stuff done on what comes afterwards. Otherwise, it's going to be a while away.
Well, I wouldn't worry too much because obviously he's got lots of power behind him, and we heard recently from Jane Tranter, they throw everything at anything he says.
No, Russell was really clear right from the start that if we were going to come back, if these old faces were going to come back again, then we were going to come back and do something which was as big as it could possibly be. And that's not just about a supersized Doctor Who programme, which, as you can see from that, it is bigger than it was before. But Russell was really clear he was going to come back and do the Whoniverse. And so all of those other things that Russell describes were part of what he said to Julie and myself right from the start. this, if we're going to come back, we're going to be all in, and this is what we're going to do. And 2 years later, slightly tarder, teeny bit older, you know, that is what we've done. I mean, what Russell did, he was so clear and so determined right from the start, and he sort of kicked open every door that there was to kick open, and we follow through. And often when you're an executive producer of a big show, one of the hardest things is to try and get all those other things around it, because these days it's not just about, if you're doing a big franchise show, it's not just about one thing, it's about the many. And you often have to go around begging for the many, or kind of like proving your worth. And Russell was kind of like, he was absolutely determined, and he's never flagged on that. You know, he's not let anything go, that if we're going to do it, this is what we're going to do it. And it's meant that it's created so many opportunities in so many different fields to be able to support the wonder that is Doctor Who. But you don't just watch the television programme, there's masses of other stuff.
So,
can I just say that is the longest I've ever seen RTD be silent when he's on camera. He's always the first person to be screaming and shouting about, oh, here's my ideas, aren't they so lovely? And but there he's sitting silent. He looks bored as hell. That's the first. That is a first. Like, he looks absolutely bored out of his mind there.
Mind you, if anyone's praising you, just stay quiet. Just let them keep praising you. That's what he was doing. It was all about him, wasn't it? So it's kind of, oh, this is very good. I like the person you're describing. Oh, it's me. And as you said, we're going to knock down every door for you.
Which makes it sound like they're a nice group in America, so knocking down doors and dragging people away.
Well, but the other thing is, she mentioned the Whoniverse, and we're going to be bigger. And I saw Stephen Braddock saying bigger's not always better. That's very true. But the other thing is, the Whoniverse, I think this is all going to go away, you know. That we've pivoted. We know from this leak and from various other sort of things and decisions being made, the big idea with Disney and all the rest of it, it's all, we're pivoting away. We're going in a fresh new direction. So it hasn't worked. And so they can big themselves up all they want. Just moving on, because there's plenty here, folks. We haven't even started, really. It's got the working title, according to the leak, Andrew, of The Lost Doctor. I found this really ironic, Mark and Goldie, because I thought we'd had a Lost Doctor since 2016 and after Capaldi. I thought we had lost the Doctor. We've had Doctor Light episodes. We've had episodes where I don't recognise the Doctor's character. I mean, the Lost Doctor, is he taking the mick? Is he going through some sort of psychotherapy at the moment? Because that is basically what a lot of us have been saying for a decade now.
Well, maybe we should get Film is Fabulous onto the case here for a Lost Doctor, because they're great at rooting out Lost Doctors, it would seem. So, yeah, it's... I mean, to put a positive slant on things, I'm assuming that from this Christmas special onwards, we're no longer under the umbrella of the Disney contract that the BBC had. So I'm hoping in a way that because of that, whatever, I don't pretend to know what the stipulations will have been to have gone into co-production with Disney, but at least it means that you would think there would be a bit more freestyling with what they can do, and not having to pander to a big franchise such as Disney. So in that respect, I hope that is a positive thing to happen. In terms of the working title, The Lost Doctor, all I'm thinking is, are we going to go through like a conveyor belt of maybe doctors, and who could come through thick and fast, and we'll pick that one, and that's the one we'll go with.
Well, you see, they're forgetting so many things. And by the way, hello, Connacht Guy, and loads of other people there. And by the way, I'm seeing different opinion, and I always like to share it. JNT did not ruin Doctor Who, says Connacht Guy, and I've put your opinion up there. JNT is a complicated story because he was there for so long trying to save Doctor Who. So I know it's a complicated argument. I do think there was an element where we hit a rich theme of fan service, and that's always a problem for a program. But yeah, there's plenty to discuss on this one, Goldie, because the Lost Doctor, The Doctor in the original classic series couldn't navigate the TARDIS. He technically was therefore lost in that way. A lot of people, as I said, have argued that since Capaldi, we haven't recognised this Doctor. It's not Doctor Who. It's just got the name Doctor Who. So this is an ironic title.
Yeah, it is ironic. It is fairly generic as well, but it's also predictable because if you go back to the reality war and you see all the circumstances around Ncuti's regeneration, he begins to regenerate, then he shoots the regeneration energy into the TARDIS, and then we get the Billy Piper appearance. So obviously there's going to be some tie back to Bad Wolf. The Doctor's probably been transported somewhere, and then Rose or the Bad Wolf has taken his place, and that's why the title is The Lost Doctor, because we'll either have Rose or the Bad Wolf having to pilot the TARDIS to go find this new Doctor. And probably what will happen is this character, whoever Billy Piper's playing, will go and get the David Tennant Doctor, and then when they arrive and find the Doctor mid-regeneration, the David Tennant one will probably run into it. They'll both merge, and then the new Doctor will come out. That's how I see it. So yeah, it's a predictable title because most of us have assumed that there is some link to the Bad Wolf and the Doctor has been transported somewhere else. Because if you just look at that final episode and how we see the heart of the TARDIS, it kind of explodes a little bit, and that's the same thing that happened when Rose pulled open the TARDIS in series 1 and the Bad Wolf came out. So I think that's the sort of plot that we're going to be following.
There is a theory that we're going to, and when I show you all the leaked stuff together, everybody, it does look as though if we're bookending the 20 years of New Who, that as Goldie's saying, there's a lot of harking back to earlier era. Bad Wolf's one of them. If you think about that Big Brother storyline, the Bad Wolf and storyline, Chris Eccleston's Doctor was taken out of the TARDIS, as was Rose, and they were put into game shows straight away. And so he can be kidnapped quite easily, and kidnapped is the word for the 16th Doctor that we're going to be talking about in a moment. And I know Stefan's onto it here in his discussion there. Michael Nemo, thank you very much. People have been very generous in this Happy New Year spirit. Thank you. That interview panel reminds me of the endless team meetings at Soul Sucking Jobs where MGMT says the same old crap, says we're a family, orders us pizza and ignores symptoms of disease. Michael, I feel your pain. We've all been in middle management meetings. We've all been in meetings where people go, blah, blah, blah. It's all lip service, isn't it? Lip service. Absolutely nauseating lip service. And, you just think, can somebody be truthful? Can somebody tell the truth? But everybody's been very nice here, knowing that I'm going to be able to feed some of the Who pets because the super chats do help. Somebody will save us someday. Please call. I'm lying. It's going in my back pocket. I'm not blooming looking after them. Here we go. Right. So this is the other part of the leak. So it's possibly got the title of The Lost Doctor. It's a big space hopping adventure with Guardians of the Galaxy style feel and with a World War II narrative thrown in. Mark, I feel as though kitchen sink's the only thing missing.
Yeah. Space hopping in itself isn't so bad. It will be that suggests something that's very fast paced. I do worry when you start to say, oh, and we're going to have a World War II narrative thrown into the mix there. It's like, how much stuff do you want in there? Less is more, really.
I agree. I referenced Robots of Death and Horror Fan Rock earlier, just two examples. And those two, you're in one setting, small ensemble cast, and it's sang. Because you could investigate and explore with dialogue and action, each character, subplot, whatever. But if you're going to have a space hopping adventure, Guardians of the Galaxy style, which isn't Doctor Who, Dalek's master plan was an outlier. If you really think of most Doctor Who stories, they're small scale, obviously because of the small budget, and it's contained. World War II narrative, we've done that with Stephen Moffat. He did it well. Of course, it looks as though he's trying to hit his best of highlights for RTD. Goldie, is there anything in this description that is appealing to you?
No, I love the first Guardians of the Galaxy film, but it's probably one of the worst things to come out of cinema and entertainment in so long, because it's affected so many franchises in the wrong way. It's Guardians of the Galaxy which normalized this whole, we need to have a joke at the end of every line which undercuts all the tension, because ha ha, isn't it funny, we've got all these jokes. And the amount of things I've seen influenced by this film pissed me off. And so if we're getting that with Doctor Who again, after all the silliness that we've had these past 2 seasons, I'm going to get really annoyed. And as you say, there's a World War II narrative. We're trying to tie up all these loose ends. We've got so many that you can't even fit them on a list. And now we've got this narrative coming in. It's all supposed to be done in 90 minutes. It's ridiculous. How nothing is going to make sense. And the thing is, these past 2 seasons haven't been coherent. But the only thing I'm intrigued by is the idea of seeing how this thing comes together and how much of a mess it's going to be. It is going to be a mess, but how much of a mess is it going to be is my question. But the only thing which perhaps you could say this is a good thing they're going with is the whole space hopping adventure, because at least we aren't on contemporary Earth for the entire thing. But apart from that, there's nothing here that really interests me. It just seems like an absolute mess.
Do you know what? When it says big space hopping adventure, Guardians of the Galaxy style, and then throw in World War II, some historical setting, it sounds like Flux. It sounds like Flux. In 6 episodes, as you know, we flew across the universe. We had exposition thrown at us like some dollops of crap. It was going hell for leather. And the budget must have been stretched to the limit in a way that Doctor Who doesn't desire and doesn't need. And actually, was there an actual storyline in this? I just get the head. I'm going to throw. Remember, we've got Daleks to come. Yeah, I've got more in the leaks to show you. So you've got Daleks, all those loose ends possibly. You've got 2 doctors at least. You've got more than one companion. This is just ridiculous. Everyone's going to have a one-liner. It's going to be 5 doctors on speed, and that is not going to get the mainstream public. If you want them coming back to see David Tennant, don't dilute him. If you want them coming to see Rose, make it Rose. But don't start throwing and don't say, let's have the Daleks in it because the Daleks will somehow be, be a ratings pull. Not when you're going to think of redesigning them. And I'm sorry, but you're still going to do Rose Noble as well, because there's all that I've got to show you in a minute. If you're going to do all that, you're going to turn people away as well. It's Christmas Day after all, if they're planning on doing it like that. So it really does concern me. So yeah, there's your Guardians of the Galaxy. And there's a lot of people in the thread are saying, why is Doctor Who trying to ape something else? Why can't we just say, it'd be interesting if RTD had said, it's going to be not a Guardians of the Galaxy style Doctor Who, it's going to be a Daleks Master Plan Doctor Who. At least then it would have been within our universe that he's discussing it. But no, he's throwing, the thread, the leak is throwing other stuff in. What about this then, lads? Mark, Billy Piper and David Tennant are to reprise their roles, as well as Yasmin Finney. And of course, Mark, a possible cameo for Shooty, because we're a charity now, you know. We need to put the thing in with the Daleks because every doctor needs to meet the Daleks. He left. His knees were buggered. It's over.
To be honest with you, I mean, it's going by the premise that it's the assumption that people are very invested in these characters, which this far down the line, they're really not. I mean, you're talking about how we're throwing everything in the kitchen sink into a Christmas special. I was thinking earlier today, well, which of the Christmas specials did I enjoy? I may be very controversial in saying this, but one of my favorites was Eve of the Daleks. And I enjoyed that one simply because it was very pared back. It was, there wasn't a great deal of festiveness around it, which there seemed to be for every single Christmas special from 2005 onwards. It was a very self-contained plot. I think they could have pushed the boundaries a bit more. I think there's more that they could have done with it, but it was very self-contained. They had a very limited amount of characters, and I got invested in those characters quite simply because I wasn't having to move like the clappers to catch up with, oh, who's this, who's that. I knew who those characters were.
Sorry, just as you were talking, I could see Sixie here said, "Who's Yasmin Finney?" There, Rose Noble,
Rose Geiler.
Yep, the what do you call it? The the Metacrisis doctor. Remember, she's had regeneration juice oozing through her. So of course, we're in trouble. Yeah, the theory is she will have to come back and be part of the solution, a bit like somehow we've got to conjoin the underpants of Shooty with David Tennant and maybe get Yasmin in there as well. I mean, it really is a ridiculous reset. So that's the Yasmin Finney character for those of you who have not been following Doctor Who like a degree, as he assumes you will. Richard Coleman, thank you. The only thing I'm looking forward to with this special is Disparu's review. Well, hallelujah, and hear to that. He's good value, and I'm hoping I'll get him back on. But yeah, in the meantime, yeah, definitely. Goldie, your thoughts on a cameo for Shooty? Rose Noble back, yay!
Well, the Shooty part is the one element to this where I am doubtful, because things that I've heard from various people and behind the scenes, the idea of Shooty coming back for this is essentially impossible. If you consider all the things that were going on behind the scenes and the reason for his departure and how he left off with RTD and the rest of them. But everything else, absolutely, that is plausible. I mean, practically, I could kind of sit here and say that's definitely going to happen. We're probably going to get more of Billy Piper and David Tennant. Again, they're always willing to come back if RTD claps his hands. Yasmin Finney, yeah, I can't really see this person being involved in too many other projects. They've probably got a lot of free time, so yeah, come back. You can have a key role in this, and yeah, it just sounds awful. It's going to just be a repeat of the 60th again. And those were awful. It's going to just be it's just going to be the same. The thing is, the guy is incapable of doing anything original now, and he's even copying things that he's done a year ago. He's just constantly recycling things. We don't want any more of David Tennant. We had David Tennant, right? Oh my god, right. So we had David Tennant as the 10th Doctor, right, from the Parting of the Ways to the Stolen Earth. We then had David Tennant as the 12th incarnation, but the second version of the 10th Doctor, from Journey's End to the End of Time Part 2. We also had David Tennant as the Metacrisis Doctor. We then had David Tennant as the 14th Doctor, and now we've got David Tennant come back again as the 14th Doctor, maybe something different as well. So, but at the minimum, we've had 4 different versions of the David Tennant Doctor. 4 different versions. Why is this guy played 4 different versions of the Doctor? Get him out. We don't want any more.
It's more character options, dolls. Now, I didn't thank you enough, Richard Coleman. And of course, I think the Hoopettes will thank you more than me, Reed.
I'll treat my wife to a blue rinse.
A blue rinse. You never know. Yasmin Finney might come back with a Miss Slocum hairstyle. So right, okay. As my source is, and you know, I'm full of it tonight, but you know, my source says so much, and I sometimes have to remind us to link with what this rumor said. So remember my source, everybody. He's been very good value.
Decipher.
Yes, everybody. He's a media producer. He's been in rooms with these people, and he said to us, then the public see a Christmas special with Piper and Tennant, and she's initially the Doctor. It's such a mess, and will anyone care? To add to that, and then I'll bring the lads in, Tennant is definitely going to do it. They will probably bring them all back, Catherine Tate, but honestly, do people care? until it moves out of RTD's hands, it's going to suck. So there you go. I mean, that media producer doing pictures, he's in the room with some of these BBC executives, and if they mention something, his radar goes up. He never tells them he's a Doctor Who fan. He just hears this stuff. I mean, Mark, can you disagree with him, or is there anything there he's missing?
I go back to a point that Goldie made earlier on about it isn't just. I mean, yes, we're talking about a Christmas special, one self-contained story that Russell T Davies is going to be producing at the end of this year, but we are also talking about the longevity going forward beyond that. I would like to think that it's somewhere in the mix of all this, they're going to have to decide on a future producer who's going to take over the reins from that. And to a degree, you would like to think that means that where this special leaves off is a jumping off point for that new producer and the direction that they want to take it in. You would like to think that they, to a degree, have some creative control over how this plot unravels and where it leaves off for them to take over the reins. That's my only hope, my positive hope, that it isn't just going to be a Russell T Davies shaped plot.
So from what the source tells me, it's going to be all RTD. The BBC don't do much oversight. They'll have said, basically, we want this healed so we can actually sell it to the masses and get other streamers on board, possibly, and all the rest of it. He's gone, okay, darling, I've got some ideas, and he'll have gone on with it. But I don't think, what you say is wise. You know, Barry Letts, Peter Bryant, they all shadowed each other at various points. Nah, this isn't going to happen. Nah, this is RTD. His pension is secure. Goldie, is there anything that my source is saying that you take umbrage with or agree with or anything?
No, I don't disagree with anything. It's, yeah, as I've already said, it's going to just be what we expect, really. It's going to be the most predictable dross ever.
Well, the leak continues from Andrew, who does get most of it right, folks. The 14th Doctor, Rose Tyler and Rose Noble search for the 16th Doctor. This is the plot, everybody. Whoa! Kidnapped. This is the 16th Doctor is kidnapped by a mysterious boss-type character, and the Daleks are in the backdrop plotting universal-wide invasion. Oh, are they? As soon as it says universe-wide, as soon as it says space-hopping Guardians of the Galaxy, I'm going, budget blown for no dramatic impact. Wasting money down the drain. It's not your money, RTD. You need to learn how to value money, and you might one day make a horror fan rock. But as soon as it's, oh God, if you want to do it, if the Disney money's gone, which it has, what you want to do, this epic that of massive scale, that the Daleks just happen to appear for a second, plotting universal-wide invasion. This is too much. And look how many characters are on screen here. 14th Doctor, Rose Tyler, Rose Noble. Are you going to have that bitch fest again? Remember when Sarah Jane and Rose were going in school reunion? Are we going to do a bit of that? And then the 16th Doctor, who I'll talk about in a minute, folks, because the leak about that is fascinating, boring. Take your pick in a moment. But the bit I wanted to show you both lads is the bit where it says kidnapped by mysterious boss-type character. Now, the boss-type character could be this, couldn't it? It could be Beep the Meat mentioned it in Starbeast. And just like you were saying, we might go back to an earlier era of New Who to line things up. I think he's sown some seeds here. Oh, I will escape and have my revenge, said Beep. So you be aware, Doctor, because there's one more thing. A creature with two hearts is such a rare thing. Just wait till I tell the boss. Later on, in Joy to the World, Anita said to the Doctor, the boss says hello, and he says, I'll have to remember that. Okay. And then Rogue says, this job has so much paperwork ever since we got that new boss. And Russell T Davies confirmed this is the same boss as mentioned by the Meep, linking it to an intergalactic bounty hunting operation. A bounty hunter like Jabba the Hutt fits the bill for a very quick shorthand, doesn't it, Goldie, of being able to kidnap a doctor and do a quest-style story while he's regenerating.
Yeah, but actually, this is the one element of the new era which doesn't really need to be picked up again, because it's not like we've actually seen this boss. It's not like there's anything that really needs to be cleared up there. Like, for example, in the Moffat era, there's this reference to a character called Gus who's trying to lure the Doctor and trap him, and that person's responsible for the events of Mummy on the Orient Express. But none of us are really talking about that character still, because we don't see the character. There's not really much substance to that character. And the same thing with the boss, really. But this is RTD. It's just another thing he can throw into this special. And it's just another thing that he can wrap up, and then he can say, oh, it was always the plan to do this. Like, you know, you see a lot of these fans, they're like, oh, it's always the plan. This person knows what they're doing, when really, there really is no plan. Like, they're the most so on the whim type people you ever meet in the entertainment industry, these Doctor Who writers. You know, it's ridiculous that some people think that all these writers have got together and they've planned out this massive long story, when really they're just trying to, you know, keep the show alive one day at a time. But yeah, this boss character, I don't really care, and really what I don't want is for this boss to be yet another returning character where, look, it's Clara, it's Romana, it's like, oh, just don't even.
Well, it's definitely not the Master, because RTD confirmed it wasn't. So hallelujah for that. I'll just want to catch up with some of the thread here first before I come to Mark. Sally, I hope you're not Sally Wainwright, because Sally Wainwright is one of those rumoured as the showrunner, and as somebody was saying in the thread, we may have a female Doctor, and she will definitely do that if it was Sally Wainwright, because you just look at her back catalogue. I want all of New Who to be erased from TV history and just start with a Paul McGann 8th Doctor series, the official season 27 after the TV movie, says Sally. Stephen Braddock is having nightmares. The Universal Dalek invasion in 90 minutes. They'll be defeated in 10 minutes from the end. And then we'll have a little soap opera, kiss and make up. Yeah, we've got to have that bit. Because, you know, it wouldn't be New Who without it. As Dalek Shalom said, I'm referencing you. Rumour has it a female Doctor is on the cards. With certain showrunners, yes, that's a cast iron cert. Tim Bex, thank you very much. I hate this. We should all be full of excitement and speculation instead of waiting for the inevitable car crash. And yes, should we do it together like is it the Mentoids in Mind Warp? Just go. Just go, please. So thank you, Tim Bex. Come on, I'll cheer you up. I know how to cheer you up. Here we go.
Roll up, and see these funny little creatures in the native habitat. Jump.
Oh, stop it, Doctor, it's not funny.
Oh, I know.
I know it's not funny, but a bit of John Pertwee cheers you up nonetheless. Do you know what though, Mark? This bit I could cope with because the boss is a new character. And that is what New Who should have been doing from the start.
Well, here's my way out theory. We're going to be breaking the fourth wall, and the boss will be Russell T Davies himself. He'll work himself into the plot. I think. Well, you know, I mean, what sort of delusions of grandeur do you need for something like that?
It wouldn't surprise me when we got that leaked synopsis for the Reality War and it said the Unholy Trinity are doing this. I thought we were going to see Russell T Davies, Stephen Moffat, and Chris Chibnall on screen as the Unholy Trinity. So yeah, I can absolutely buy that. Someone like RTD would put himself in the show as the boss.
Maybe. I mean, they've already in the one with the cartoon character, I think, that broke the fourth wall. Then all of a sudden, Doctor Who fans were part of the plot. You mentioned earlier about Stranger Things, and I think this is the problem now. If you think about when we're going to be getting this Christmas special, back end of 2026, 3 years down the line from when the 60th anniversary stuff came out, it's a hell of a long time to build up for a character that was mentioned so early on, and Stranger Things has probably fallen into that trap as well. There is such a gap between one series to the next now that you really do forget where things left off. If you're wanting to watch something like Stranger Things, you have it. You have to be forced to then go back and stream all the way through the series to actually get a hook on what it is you're actually watching now. That's about 3 years apart from where the cliffhanger last left off.
Yeah, I mean, if you just see what's on the screen there, 14th Doctor, two companions are searching for another Doctor. Just imagine being some granny from Wigan, kidnapped by a mysterious boss-type character, and the Daleks are in the background planning world invasion, universe-wide invasion. Look, if this was a kid in my classroom, that last bit I'd say drop out. To me, that's superfluous wallpaper. If you want a quest story, there's the top bit and focus on that. I really don't know why we need a quest for the 16th Doctor, which could be like a key to time. Fair enough. You go for it, RTD. Fill your boots. But why the Daleks are plotting something else in the background? It's too much mush. I would say less is more. Pull that back. Why we waste... By the way, lads, why are we wasting the Daleks when they're not going to be the main act? I'm sorry, I'm sick of this. Daleks are not Doctor Who wallpaper.
But here's the thing that I've always wondered. Now, I don't know if you have any information on this, but it's something I've heard from both. Well, I've heard both sides of this, but I've never really known which one's actually true. Is there a thing in place with the Terry Nation estate where they have to use the Daleks every year to retain the ability to use them? Because if that's the case, then maybe that's why they're using them in this, because it's the only thing that's airing in 2026 related to Doctor Who, and so they'd need to put the Daleks in.
Well, I took that. You never assume everybody, always check your own facts. I heard that, like you have, Goldie, and thought, oh, there must be some truth in that rumour. But then in season 1 and 2, the Daleks didn't appear at all, did they?
But there are flashbacks, and like in the barbershop episode, there's a flashback to a previous story with the Daleks. So that may count as a Dalek appearance.
Yeah, the interesting bit about this rumour about whether they have to be in every year and all the rest of it, which I wouldn't agree with either. I think that's too much Daleks, like too much Tennant you can have, is would the Terry Nation estate want a redesign of the Daleks, which is the other mooted bit, which we'll come to in a moment, because the Daleks are the Daleks, and we've had the Paradigm Daleks, and the Jelly Baby Daleks we do not want. They're failed. So it's just how much say do they have? They're not just greedy, either. They don't just want Daleks on the screen and then make more money. Surely not. Surely not. They've made enough, haven't they? But Mark, I am worried about why that's too much on that screen there. That's too much plot already. And you shouldn't be wasting the Daleks on just being froth.
I think to be fair, I mean, like the point that Goldie's just made, we haven't had a couple of years without Daleks at all, and that's given them a rest. And I think if you're going to bring the Daleks back, bring them back in a big bombastic way and really celebrate them and do them well. If you look at, say, for example, the entire era of Tom Baker's run, they only appeared in 2 stories. Yeah. That was enough, and I don't think we felt like we ever missed out.
No, we didn't. In fact, it's called anticipation. Look, your kids have all had Christmas Eve and Christmas Day. You know the score. It drags. It's anticipation, excitement. You don't always get what you want. If every day in your world as a kid was an Amazon delivery day, Christmas doesn't exist. The whole point is, during the Tom Baker era, we had 2 Dalek stories. We got one very early on, as you know, and so then you had a long drag for the Cybermen. We've had to do this before, and boy, is it worth it for that one moment in Earthshock Part 1, for that one moment in Day of the Daleks when you see them back. That's what it's all about, not seeing them every 5 minutes. Boring. It's like seeing lots of toys all of a sudden in a toy shop. So we've got this issue here. Now,
And can I just say, prior, because this links into what we were just talking about, this being a Christmas special and the fact that this story is being done as the Christmas special makes it 10 times worse, because even though Doctor Who has been getting low ratings, extremely low ratings, the Christmas specials, just because they are Christmas specials, they're airing on Christmas Day, they always get a huge increase in viewership. And because this episode is going to just be a huge lore fest, the entire thing is wrapping up loose ends, you're going to have an additional 1 or 2 million people who are going to be watching, going, what the hell is this show? And if they haven't seen it before, they're going to be deterred from watching anything else in the future, because it's literally going to just be this 90-minute segment where a bunch of random things are happening. Whereas if you look to the other Christmas specials, for the most part, they're very self-contained. Yeah, if you were to put on Voyage of the Damned, you can just watch it, not having really seen any Doctor Who before. The same with loads of other ones. But this one is heavily tied to everything that's come before.
Everything. And this is one bit where I'm going to do a screeching of brakes and say, right, as Doctor Who fans, this is a big moment, this. Part of the leak says this: the 16th Doctor, who has not been cast, because they haven't even cast the new showrunner yet, so one thing before the other, spends most of the story locked within a regeneration process. And obviously at the end of the Christmas special may not even be revealed if he or she has not even been cast. So there we go, clickbait again. We've had a Billy Piper She-Hulk Doctor, and now we're going to possibly have one in some sort of strange sheen or effect, hence why my thumbnail was trying to do the job properly. There you go, in silhouette at the back. Now, I'm sorry, lads, Goldie and Mark, this reminds me of the 5 Doctors, where one Doctor is trapped in the time vortex, where one Doctor and the 3 Doctors is trapped in the time vortex, in the timelines or something. Or the Watcher in Legopolis, where we had this kind of in-betweeny Doctor chrysalis type figure. It feels as though we're doing a bit of that. Or is it a bit of the plot of the next Doctor, where of course the whole plot was a clickbait saying you're going to see the next Doctor, he just believed he wasn't. We all know the score. And I found that dreary as hell. I'll never watch that again. And the Cyberkin, don't even start me. And then on top of that, Christmas Invasion. Is it a bit of that again, where basically the Doctor, it's titles there, he's in bed most of the blooming programme. And I just feel as though RTD is doing a mixture of all these, because it sounds as though we're going to have a kind of Watcher type regeneration locked. And so you never see him or her. And so that's a mixture of quite a few little things. Basically, we're making a programme of Doctor Who really without really the Doctor Who we want in it, because we're all sick of the David Tennant one. Sorry, I'm yabbering on, but I'm really bothered about this. This is a rehash, Goldie.
Yeah, while some people may look at this and go, well, it's been done before, surely it's not going to be done again. This is Russell T Davies, and he loves to recycle ideas of his own and ideas from other people. So that is actually more evidence that we could actually be seeing elements from all these different stories in this new one, because that's what he loves to do. He loves to take bits and pieces that he likes from other stories and just mesh them into his own.
Yep, he's the great toy maker, Mark.
I think Tika Jovanka spent a quicker time in a holding pattern trying to get back to Heathrow Airport than we will maybe getting to a 16th Doctor. I would like to think that by the time that we come round to the Christmas special, they will have at least got their showrunner and new Doctor in place, even if it means that they have to tack something on the end. I just don't think you can leave people hanging for, what are we thinking, another year after that to the 16th Doctor? I can't really imagine that. I'm anticipating that we'll have this Christmas special, and then maybe, depending on how the shape of a newer series looks like, I would imagine we'll be looking at maybe an Easter time 2027 before we start to see a 16th Doctor and 16th Doctor storylines.
But Goldie, has TV changed too much? Because a lot of older Doctor Who fans will say, well, didn't this happen with the War Games, where we didn't know it was John Pertwee, and you didn't see John Pertwee at the end, and it was only Benjamin Cook who put him in? But yeah, can't we cope with that nowadays in 2026, where basically we have a Doctor Who story, there's a regeneration thing going on, but we have to wait for the new Doctor? Can a modern audience cope with that, Goldie?
No, because everything nowadays, all the models that the studios are using, it's all about content. And RTD's admitted this himself. When approaching many of the stories of this recent era, it was all about, right, how can I drive up hype? How can I create content? How can I get people to theorize, to discuss? And if there's nothing to discuss, then the show's basically dying. And that's why he put that cameo from Billy Piper at the end, is to keep the conversations going. And so even if we don't see the 16th Doctor for however long, they're probably going to put something in right at the end of this Christmas special to show this new Doctor, because they need that engagement to stay up while they're busy filming it and doing all that stuff, which will take months and months and months. So, and it's not even, it is a problem that RTD approached all of his stories like that. But at the same time, I can't put all the blame on him for that particular aspect, because that's something that all shows and all films are doing. Every single film now has to have a post-credit scene to keep you talking about the potential sequel or a spin-off. And the same with shows. They're always putting in these little side characters that may have their own little project on the side, because they need people creating videos to talk about it and post theorizing. And so no, I think the chance that we get like a proper ending to this story with no hints of the future or the 16th Doctor is 0% chance, really, if I'm thinking about it.
Well, I've got Tomboy Chick saying the modern audience doesn't care. I feel your pain. Now, I've got something to say about this also. RTD, is he the one producer showrunner who has dabbled with regeneration the most? You've got bi-generation, you've got the regeneration hoax, you've got this regeneration lockout kind of process. Can he actually actively make regeneration work well in a script? Now, I'll give you a bit of a case study here, everybody, because I'm trying to be fair, and you might like the nostalgia element. This is RTD in an earlier era playing with regeneration.
Anything else?
Why don't you ask it yourself? I've got you. I missed you. Look.
Get him into the TARDIS, quick! Move!
There must be some medicine or something.
He's dying, and you know what happens next. It's starting.
It's a random. I'm sorry!
Exterminate! Exterminate! Exterminate!
But you can't.
I'm sorry. I'm regenerating.
Do you know what? I said it's like psychotherapy, Doctor Who for RTD. The more I watch Stolen Earth, and the David Tennant Doctor, I don't want to go. I'm thinking of a certain other character called Russell, who I don't want to go. One more special, one more episode. But yes, am I being fair there, Goldie? I mean, is that from an era when RTD got it right? Did you like him dabbling with regeneration and the regeneration energy and Hawks in it and all the rest of it? Or do you think it was a different era? Those skills have gone.
Well, when it comes to the early seasons of the revival, I'm always going to be biased because I grew up on that stuff, and I'll always look on it with more fondness than Classic Who loyalists who've always viewed the revival as being a different take on Doctor Who compared to the one that they grew up with. But I think it comes down to the case of RTD has dabbled with the lore too much, and the same with Moffat and Chibnall as well. The reason I'm more lenient on stories like The Stolen Earth is because it was the first time that sort of thing was done, and once you do something the first time, there's that it's special in the sense that it hasn't been done before. And if you do something that's different, okay, it's different, and people will have contradicting opinions, but it's something out there. They're taking a risk. But when you get to the point where every 5 minutes there's something significant changed, that there's something that's just flipped on its head, it gets ridiculous. And even though what they're doing is constantly sort of renewing all the ideas, because they're constantly doing it, it becomes old, even though that may seem contradictory. But that's what it is. It's just constantly trying to do something controversial for the sake of it.
I mean, it's a hard one, this, Mark, isn't it? Because you know, as Goldie's just said, you do something new with Doctor Who. So that was an interesting take on the regeneration process that you're playing with us. But wouldn't that mean we can fall into the argument that bi-generation was a good idea then as well? You see, when you look back at that Stolen Earth, do you think RTD got it right? He knows how to do a cliffhanger. He knows how to mess on with the regeneration in Doctor Who canon. Or do you think that skill has gone?
I think it's interesting watching that back because it made me remember it was a really good cliffhanger for the space of a week. Nobody really knew what was going to happen next, and we were in that era where we didn't really get a lot of rumor mill coming through at that point. And you were thinking, is David Tennant, is that him? Is that his exit? And unfortunately it wasn't, and I kind of think that was a missed opportunity. Can you imagine if halfway through an adventure full of jeopardy, the Doctor just, you know, falls on his sword and regenerates, and then spends the next half having to deal with whatever's going on, but also having to deal with his own crisis of regeneration into a new person? That would have been such a great risk to take, and to just have David Tennant bow out at that point would have been really sensational, I think. I mean, looking back on that point, I don't mind it. I don't mind that David Tennant stayed on at that point, but I think you can only really do that one time. You've now fallen into the trap where the people who did that think that they can do that time and again, and the more you do it, the more you start breaking your toys, the more time you start snapping things apart and thinking, oh, that doesn't really matter. It matters to a lot of people who have invested decades of their time invested in a character, and all of a sudden you're throwing all that premise out the window.
Well, when you think the amount of changes to regeneration in the New Who era, you know, there's so much regeneration energy going into Davros. Is one example that comes to mind straight away. The regeneration energy going into a meta crisis, and you can blow it away at the end of Star Beast like it's in the air.
And we can seriously grow a new hand after it's been chopped off.
Yeah, because the first 15 minutes are very key, and all the rest of this. You know, I just think they've played with it too much. So, Michael Nemo, thank you very much. I wish RTD was a passionate Doctor Who fan. You see, he's a self-appointed super fan. I can't challenge that because I've never met him. But what I can say is the evidence I see, I'm really starting to doubt whether he is a super fan. But the other thing that I find with the evidence is you have no right, if you are a fan, to vandalize and ambush the series or ambush other people's inventions and villains and characters as if they are own. I disagree with that intensely. So thank you very much, Michael Nemo. If he is a super fan, he's not behaving like one, as far as I'm concerned. So thank you very much. We always say thank you. So, of course, I've given you a few ideas of where I think he's getting, you know, these blooming rehashes from. Now, it continues, the leak, doesn't it? It's a good leak. It's a good rumour. The Daleks do some really interesting things in the current script, which has made me extremely curious on how this design will turn out. Oh, no. Oh no. What can the Daleks do that they haven't done before, which would force a redesign? If I just showed everybody very quickly, there's our Daleks as they started. You've then got, my favourite, Planet of the Daleks, Battleship Grey. You've then got a whole, this, I found that ages ago. Whoever's done it, thank you very much. But you can see the evolution of the Daleks that we know and love, whether they're grey, dark grey, gold, red, cream. There they all are. And of course, we haven't forgotten that you've got the originals, the movie ones, the 2005 bronzy, brassy ones, and the paradigm ones. We've had a range, haven't we? We had the sect, the cult of Skaro, didn't we? We've had hybrid Daleks, the stone Dalek. We've had, there's the hybrid one from Manhattan. We've had the victory of the Daleks. I will make you a cup of tea. We've had the good old jelly babies. There's good old, what's his name? Dalek Sek, is it? I can't remember now. And then we had the new Who Chibnall Daleks, made from Sheffield steel, as if that was so easy to be done. Then we had those Downing Street Daleks. We've had a lot of blooming Daleks. Do we need a redesign? But the other question, Goldie, is there anything we want the Daleks to do that we haven't seen them do so far that would force another blooming design change?
No. And as you've mentioned, many of the out there design changes in recent years have not been well received, so much so that they've had to extremely backpedal in future stories. And this may be a hot take. I'm sure for a lot of people this will be considered a hot take, but I've never really been a fan of the Daleks. Yeah, I've never been a huge fan of the Daleks, so them being in this doesn't really excite me that much anyway. There are plenty of stories which they are in, which I do like. So nobody, get me wrong, don't think I'm hating on Genesis or Day of the Daleks or anything like that. But yeah, I think, like we've already mentioned, the Daleks do need a good rest so that we can have someone come back and do something proper with them. But they're clearly here as a ratings grab. They're clearly here to try to inject some familiarity into Doctor Who, because right now we're in this state of limbo where anything can happen. There's all this fantastical stuff going on. We've got multiple doctors. We've got people, coming and going, and there's no stability. So the Daleks coming back is some sort of familiar territory, but I really hope they don't do a huge design change again. Like those Whittaker Daleks, they are awful. They look like, it's so weird. They haven't really got any like back piece. It looks like they've been doing arse exercises. Like you see all those influencers, they got those massive arses that like extend about 3 meters behind them. That's what those Whittaker Daleks look like. They look so awful. I really hope they don't do another stupid design. But I mean, if we look to 2023 with the Davros change and how Rtd said that, we can't show anyone being in a system like this because they may think it's, being rude towards disabled people. Well, I don't want him to have them end up as God knows what. I don't want to even imagine, but I don't want them changed fundamentally just because he and his few mates want to get on the side of people who, I mean, for one, the type of people they're trying to appeal to are never going to be happy. Like, whatever, they're always going to find some problem to be offended with. But also, like, no one's really asking for this change either.
No, none of us fans have asked for any of this crap. But as I come to Mark, I'll just kind of update us on the thread. Michael Herbert, good to see you. Happy New Year. Trans Daleks, they become mechanoids. 6E, maybe they'll combine to form one Mega Dalek. A Cyber Dalek. Cyber King. Oh, God.
They'll have the Maga Dalek. That'll be the evil boss, the Maga Dalek.
Yeah. Stephen O'Neill, you can't redesign a classic design like the Daleks. It didn't work back in 2010. And sorry, if you haven't got any new ideas, RTD, bye-bye. Bye-bye. Stop. As I said, stop ambushing and vandalising stuff that you don't own. Stephen Braddock, I was thinking the same as you, Stephen Braddock. Wonder if we'll get the much touted spider Daleks. He mentions them, everybody, in the Imagine documentary with Alan Yentob, and he talks about some people were saying they might end up being spiders. You never mess with a Dalek, darling. And he says that. But now it's his one shot left, his one last desperate act. He could do anything. And as I say, Mark, as I come to you, sorry, I'm just checking Tomboy Chick, a Dalek disco. No, we're not having that. Lee Smith's laughing about their Daleks having massive asses. And Lee Smith, Dalek walkers, Tara, Daleks in high heels and suspenders. Well, the Davros thing has muddied the waters, hasn't it, Mark? Because we're all saying if you can't have Davros in a life support system, well, the Daleks, that's their travel support system. So don't bring the Daleks back unless they look like Daleks, as far as I'm concerned. Don't dabble like this. Actually, oh, Mark, there's two questions, aren't there? Is there something you want the Daleks to do that they haven't done in Doctor Who, therefore forcing a redesign? And can you cope with a redesign when they're only wallpaper in the background of the special?
Well, we're going to have a flashback to that Galactic Eurovision, and that the Daleks had their own booth there because someone was commenting there on a Dalek disco. In terms of what we haven't seen from the Daleks before, I mentioned Eve of the Daleks earlier on, and I think there was a fundamental missed opportunity there because you had this plot where it was a bit of a Groundhog Day premise whereby every so often the characters were all exterminated. What I thought was a missed opportunity there is you want to hear from somebody who's been exterminated. You know, what did it feel like? How awful was it? And that they just got back up again off the sofas and were off again. I thought that was a missed opportunity to explore how absolutely dreadful and awful that fundamental thing of extermination might be. I thought that was a missed opportunity with the Daleks of late. In terms of redesign, I have a feeling that when we first heard that Doctor Who was coming back in 2005, there was a very early news report to say that the Daleks were not going to be involved in the new series. And then there was a complete 360 about turn, and all of a sudden they are going to be included in, which struck me as, well, thank goodness we have the Terry Nation estate, which, as far as I'm aware, protect what the Daleks are and what they look like to a degree. And I can only assume that the reason why they weren't going to be involved in the 2005 revival originally may possibly have been because production were pushing to totally change up the design of it, and the Terry Nation estate probably put the blockers on that. So I can only think, thank goodness we do have the Terry Nation estate that protects to a degree really what a Dalek is, and in that respect, thank goodness I don't think it can move too far away from what, if it ain't broke, why fix it?
Oh, well, I mean, if that was the rule, RTD has really gone beyond the pale, hasn't he? I mean, gosh. Stephen O'Neill, the Dalek design is heavily protected through a combination of copyright and trademarks with joint ownership between the BBC and the estate of their creator, Terry Nation. Well, obviously, Mark was diving into that a little bit as well. I'm sat here as a Doctor Who fan, loves the Daleks. I don't want them overused, though. And I'm sat here thinking, was there some sort of kind of nonsense fantasy I had about something the Daleks could do that they haven't done in the Doctor Who show? And I don't think there's any answer. I didn't feel as I wanted to see them flying. I know they're in the comic strip, and I like the comic strip, but I didn't need to see it on TV. I like a Dalek coming down a corridor and you're trapped. I like a Dalek coming through a jungle in Plans of the Daleks and you're being chased by them. I they do what they do. I think there's been a missed opportunity with the Daleks because they, when you first met them, paralyzed your legs like Ian Chesterton. They didn't necessarily exterminate you. They actually had stun level and kill level, so to speak. And I think we've missed something there. I wonder, Goldie, knowing about Stranger Things and fascinated by you not really being a lover of the Daleks, I wonder if making the Daleks much, let's be honest, much more ruthless would tap into that Stranger Things a bit darker, a bit more brutal. I'd be up for that. I really do think I don't like. I know Star Wars do it, where you're firing loads of guns and lasers and they always miss. You just see the effects. I don't want Daleks that miss. I'd love a Dalek that it's one laser, it hits you, you die. They're ruthless. They're supposed to be ruthless. I just think that sort of thing it's not a reinvention. I just think I'd be up for that, Goldie.
Yeah, we do need to return to Base Under Siege type stories where there's not a huge army of Daleks, but rather a few, and you really see the power and threat of a few Daleks. That's why Dalek works so well, because it's a singular Dalek, and you see how much its capabilities of destruction are. Like a single Dalek, not like too much entertainment nowadays falls into the trap of we need to have a huge CGI army. There needs to be thousands of these villains, but we're only focusing on a few of them, but we'll have 1,000 there to sort of pad out the screen and make it look epic. But really what you need is a few of these villains, only have a couple or a few, and then you really show the power of them. Most of the great Doctor Who stories you look back to, there's only one or two of those antagonists from a species. There's not millions of them. And that's what we see in too many films and shows today. There's, they're dominating the skies. There's hundreds of them. There's hundreds of ships. They've got all these superpowered things. And it really just, it loses the sort of purpose. It loses the intent behind it. There's not any sort of impact that can come from a million of these CGI blobs. Whereas if you have one or two of them and they're in a very confined space and it's very dark and they're trapped, that can create a good sense of fear that a huge army can't.
Yeah. So Darko, good to see you. Most ruthless we've seen the Daleks: Genesis, Resurrection, and the Dalek Empire audios. I can't doubt that. Stephen Braddock, Power of the Daleks is the perfect story for the Daleks to revisit. We were talking about remaking some classics movie style earlier. But then Stefan says, don't touch the Power of the Daleks. Go and watch our missing episodes focus instead. And while I'm just on shout outs for a moment, we will be doing the Faceless Ones very soon when me and Stefan's dates coalesce. But the other thing I wanted to say is we've got Garbage here. He makes all our effects, so to speak. And I'm just trying to find his advert. There you go. Garbage Who AI. He's done a few Knight Rider specials at the moment. Tune in for that. Give him a subscription. Give him a view. Give him a hype. Give him whatever he needs. So Garbage Who. And of course, he's one of his early effects for us. But I'm very happy with these low budget effects because I'm a Doctor Who fan. And we are talking about the Daleks after all. Blame Garbage. So next thing on the leak list of Andrew. Gosh, leak. There's going to be a big damp mess below me after this. The BBC will use the special to set a standard for the show. Now, my heart starts skipping here. 3 to 5 large-scale episodes a year is the standard they want to set, Sherlock style. We were saying in earlier streams, Line of Duty gets a series when they've written it and it's up to the quality they want. They don't do a show every year or a series every year. I actually think that's what Doctor Who needs to do. Kill that continuity crap. Kill just splurging the content out there. I am also sad, Goldie, to think that we're not going to have 10 episodes, 12 episodes, 28 episodes. We're going to be getting a few. And I just wonder whether Doctor Who will be a different beast if it just becomes little mini TV movies. But I do think this is probably where we are with TV nowadays. What do you think of this?
this is the one piece of information from the leak which I'm actually in support of, because what plenty of us have been saying, we mentioned this on the War Between the Land and the Sea streams, is that Doctor Who nowadays, because they are confined to 45-minute episodes, most of the time they're just singular stories. It's not like you've got multiple 45-minute episodes, although they occasionally have them, but there's only like one or two of those a season. It limits how much the story can be fleshed out. And so the Doctor appears, and in 40 minutes it's all going to be solved, and they're going to go off. But if we do move to this sort of, fewer episodes, but they're much longer, then that means that we can have stories that are actually, the tension is established. We actually get used to the characters. We can feel the threats. It isn't just a case of, right, they're here, they're off, what we doing next week. It'll be a case where you're looking forward to one specific story, and perhaps that'll play out through multiple episodes for a few weeks, or maybe it will just be one massive, long episode. But I think that is the direction the show needs to go in, especially in this age of streaming, where you don't have to. If the BBC have, in recent months, they've been really pushing BBC iPlayer. I think they really want to establish their own streaming service. And if they do that and they start prioritizing streaming more, then it means they don't have to limit themselves to the 45-minute time slot. It means they can have an hour-long episode. It means they can have an hour and a half if they want to do 90 minutes. And it means that we can actually get to the point where we're having these big serialized stories again, and going back to classic Who in many ways. Like, I know some people will look at this as sort of a massive change, but really what it is a return to form, because Doctor used to thrive on this, long form storytelling where you'd have 6, 8 episodes and you'd really flesh out the story. And it's something that in the modern era, Doctor Who hasn't really been able to do, and when it has, they're usually the stories which get the most credit, the multi-part stories which go on for 90 minutes, because it's much longer, and it doesn't feel like you're being rushed through the story.
I'm getting worried about this. We had 2 years of the Disney budget. For good or bad, we had the biggest budget Doctor Who's ever had. RTD made a final pivotal decision to do 8 episodes a year, with some Dr. Lights, by the way, and he put all his eggs in that basket. And as we all know, it didn't deliver. And now we're having to pivot with less money because Disney's walked away. And so the BBC are in-house at the moment. They're hoping to find a streamer, but they're thinking, right, we want a special, we want to relaunch Doctor Who. We're going to have to set a standard in a different way. I wonder if we can get away with less, higher quality, and just about survive on the budget. So basically, I'm really aggrieved by this, because we had the opportunity with the Disney budget to make really good Doctor Who. Because I am always going to compare to stuff like Harry Potter out there. J.K. Rowling is not making 8 episodes. She's making a lot of episodes. Stranger Things did 8 episodes, 10 episodes, but there were movie length in the end, weren't there? I'm really concerned that we are really honing back because of a mistake made by RTD. I really am angry about this. We had one golden opportunity and he blew it. So now we have to say, right, we've got less money. We need to do it a different way. Mark, it's good news to me that we're thinking differently, but I'm gutted at another lost opportunity with that man at the helm.
I think if this is the way forward, I agree with Goldie. I think this is a positive step forward, because what my bigger concern would be if we got, say, another 10 episode series, but it was absolutely floundered like we've had over the last couple of years. And I think the danger is you will have a massive drop off in audience, and that'll be the end of it. I think paring it back to 3 to 5 large scale episodes, I think, is a good test bed to see, well, is the audience still there? Is the audience still with us? As long as it's done well, because the concern is, we just had a mini series of 5 large scale episodic episodes from War Between the Land and the Sea, which started out really with so much positivity and was floundering by the end of it. As long as it's done well, that's the only thing. But I think it's a better place to come from if you're limiting it in the first instance to a few larger episodes, special episodes, test the ground, see how a new Doctor works, see how a new showrunner works. God forbid, let's do something a bit wacky and wild and actually have a producer showrunner who's a woman. Let's go back to the very Verity Lambert days and actually get someone with fresh perspective on things.
Oh, I feel as though the way you're describing it, Mark, and you've probably been a realist, it's a wounded animal, Doctor Who. It's a casualty. It needs a lot of kind of care. It needs to be in intensive care for a while. It needs, oh, for God's sake, this is all because of New Who, isn't it? New Who has been at the helm for 20 years, and now Doctor Who is a casualty. Now Doctor Who is lame. Now Doctor Who is being hunted down by stronger beasts out there. It's shocking.
On the flip side to that, I would say, thank goodness Russell T Davies and Disney came together quite late to the party, because as we've seen with other big franchises like your Star Wars, like your Marvel, like your Star Treks, you can have too much of a good thing and that completely ruins it. I think if by now we'd have multiple spin-offs and multiple Doctor Who, multiple this and that, I think we would just be absolutely forget it. Let's go in the other direction. I think, thank goodness, they came to that late in the party, and I think really I'm optimistic that it is salvageable, and maybe this is the way to do that.
Yeah, so you can see on the episodes front, but I'm going to kind of join this together with obviously the BBC says they're fully committed to Doctor Who. My source, of course, says their contract, this is Bad Wolf, is up in 2027, so it makes sense for the BBC to order the special to wrap up this disastrous era. The BBC cannot afford to spend 50 million on a new Series 3, he said. They're not going to spend that money in the environment we're in now. They need some help regarding a streamer. But of course, he wasn't fathoming out 3 episodes per year, was he? It's a really expensive show to make in today's current climate. It's expensive, whichever way you look at it. So the idea that you could go back to just doing Ghostlight or Curse of Fenric or Islad Horror of Fenric is fantasy, Brendan. The production's moved on, it's changed, it's a different world, so it's more expensive, so they don't have the money to do that. Let's just say All Creatures Great and Small, Bergerac nowadays, that kind of level of thing. It's not got a huge stars in it, but it's an ensemble cast. You can do it for about 3.5 million an episode. Doctor Who's more expensive because of the post-production special effects. So maybe the BBC have come up with a plan, which is just so many episodes a year, and let's just set a high standard. But it's going to kill episodic. It's going to kill cliffhanger. It's going to kill a lot of what I would call is the core of Doctor Who. New Who's done that an awful lot. I want to just add this. This is one of the last things on the leak, everybody. The BBC are searching for a new showrunner for the 2027-28 season. RTD and Bad Wolf are strongly pushing for Pete McTighe. The BBC is less enthusiastic. My source was saying this, that because they've worked with him, they'll be so keen to work with him. You know, Bad Wolf, oh, yeah. It's Buggins' turn. Now, let's just remind ourselves, if it stays in the stable of Bad Wolf regarding Pete McTighe's turn, blah, 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 we'll have a Stephen Moffat special, Chris Chibnall might come back for one. You know how this is going to work. So, we're really going to spend the next few minutes about the next showrunner. There's some new names out there that the leak mentioned. And so there's Pete McTighe, of course, that has been pushed for. There's a few other ones. We've just had RTD and the problems with RTD. And I just want us to ponder that before we have our next part of our discussion, everybody. Look at the problems we've had with the last showrunner. Let me just remind you. Warning.
We're coming back subtler than ever. Thinking. It's like breathing. Of course I think of Doctor Who stories all the time. And the BBC had decided to set up a whole great big new future with it. There are rules. There are things you can do. There are things you can't do. Pushing against those rules is part of the job as well. But I was really keen to kind of make sure it didn't just get thrown to the lions. I tell you, actually, it is the same old Doctor Who. It's still daft. It's still got jokes. It really is the same old show. I hope a brand new audience comes in to watch it. But I say this is how we see Davros now, without the facial scarring, without the wheelchair or his this, and I'm very, very proud of the fact that we have.
And it's dead. Speddy splits in half. 2 doctors. Astronomically exciting.
Here's the king, Dublin.
I've had such a good idea this morning. Series Climax 2025 and 2026. I know what's happening in that as well. I think you write with more confidence and more certainty. I think that's a good place to be.
I hate that. Sack Russell T Davies, sack Jane Tranter, sack Phil Collinson, sack Julie Gardner, and I'll come back. Just don't like being associated with those people.
There's a punchiness to Russell's writing.
I am fighting a battle.
It's like he's taken the guardrails off.
I think on one hand, he's a showman. And on the other hand, he's dark as the pits of hell.
You die in a prison cell.
And he sees the darkness in humanity.
This relentless noise.
He stares it right in the eye, but with absolute kind of mercy.
Cowards like you.
And thought and understanding.
An awful lot of people have masturbated over my work and come up to me and tell me.
He knew when TV doesn't talk down to kids.
Will I make my mind blank too, sir?
It may not be necessary in your case.
When TV doesn't talk down to kids.
All of this is bogus.
No.
Yes.
No. Where it treats them with intelligence.
It's not.
I think that Russell went, oh yeah, I remember this feeling.
To make that character 15 is so vital.
Imagine now being able to be this political.
Right. Now it would be a trans character walking in there. It's like
we know everything, thanks.
And you know nothing?
topic of wherever society is, that's where you should be going.
It's a shame you're not a woman anymore. Because she'd have understood.
Yeah, and I thought that's a revolution.
You're assuming he as a pronoun.
Being this influential again, back at Doctor Who.
Yes, sorry, good point.
Something a male presenting Time Lord will never understand.
It's the best toy set you can have. It's the most incredible power. You've got all of time and space. But
it's the power of it, and you ruined it, and you've lost your chance, mate, now. Thank you very much, RTD. So we're going to talk about future showrunners, but first of all, thank you, Richard Coleman. But as you say, we had the flux. We had 6 episodes, and it was pretty poor. The writers do not exist anymore with talent for multi-episode stories. It is beyond their feeble efforts. I know it is a depressing one, that a concise answer, lads, because he's been very generous there. But I brought up the flux earlier, and I thought, well, the flux was 6 episodes. It was high budget, really, and it was a disaster zone. Goldie, your thoughts on us doing this 3 to 5 episode thing, and even with a limited budget, I don't think they can do it. But as Richard Coleman's saying, we don't know if we have the talent for it anymore.
Well, I don't really want to use Chris Chibnall as an indictment on multi-episode stories, because the guy isn't even good at doing single episode stories. The guy's just crap as it is. So I actually think it would be good for Doctor Who to get back to multi-episode stories. I think we really need for people to be engaged in a story for a much longer period of time, because nowadays it's always the Doctor arrives, the Doctor leaves right next week. And I think the time for that's over quite a bit. You know, I grew up on the revival stuff and I still love it. And I do love most of those stories, those single episode stories. But, you know, when I look at it objectively, it would be good to go back to much longer stories. I think that's something we need. And then at the same time, because there's less episodes or less stories being made, they can really focus on the few that do exist and really put all their time into it. You know, we're always hearing of, right, this actor isn't available, so we have to do a Dr. Light story, or, you know, this and that isn't available, so we need to rush in a different episode here. But if they actually have a few episodes, they can really put all their resources towards them.
No, I hear what you're saying, and that's why I like getting you on and Mark on others, because you don't all agree with. We don't have the same mindset. So yeah, I hear what you're saying. Number one, Daleks aren't your favourite. Number two, you're quite okay with some of the single episodes. I'm less so. It's interesting, isn't it? Badger, thank you very much. Happy New Year to you. Where did the money go? It didn't go on big guest stars, hiring famous writers, longer episodes, or even better SFX or cinematography. Yes, because I've looked at some of the old stuff, and actually I think it stands up well. So you've got two questions here, Mark. First of all, is where did the money go? My answer is very quickly on the money front, which is it was quite clear. We are all experts on Nerva Beacon being used twice. Use the same set twice. It's called saving money. Revisit unit, you save money. RTD, because he does single episodes, every episode is a new world, new characters, new actors, new gadgets. It costs a fortune. If he did episodic, it would be bloody cheaper. So there's my answer, Badger. Obviously, there's two questions for you, Mark. If you can be kind of concise-ish. But yeah, the first one, there's Badger's about the money. And of course, the other one was good little Richard Coleman talking about, is there anybody out there who can write blooming good scripts now, which are episodic?
In terms of the money, all I see is that the Disney money was used to build a brand spanking new TARDIS, which I dare say will be used forever and a day now. I don't think they'll be changing that set anytime soon. I think that's where all the Disney money went to. In terms of showrunner, producer, I think, unfortunately, we just seem to be pulling from the same pool of best buddies, really, at the moment. One hands the key on to the other. You've had, for example, for at least the last couple of years, you'd have J. Michael Straczynski, who created Babylon 5. He's been very vocal about saying he would relish the opportunity to take on Doctor Who. Brilliant. There's a guy who made a very arguably one of the most iconic pieces of science fiction on US television. If he's crying out to say, I'd bite your hands off for it, give somebody like that an opportunity. I think that would be, I'd welcome that.
So Stefan here, I think Moffat was the only showrunner who showed respect to the old monsters. I hear what you're saying there. We've got people starting to answer this question about showrunners. You've mentioned JMS. Now, there's other names in the frame. Now, I'll just mention what the thread are saying first, and then I'll bring them in and see what you and Goldie think. Finally, it sounds like the BBC might actually be asking questions and questioning themselves. If only true, Tomboy Chick. Yes, let's have a look. Nicola Dalby, good to see you. What's the bet in the World War II thing? We'll take a swipe at present politicians, I'll say. I hope not. Please, no. It ages it as well. Sixy, let's get a writer that's not a member of RTD's circle of friends, please, BBC. Here to that. Aurum, good to see you. Ghostlight had access to BBC staff designers, lighting director, prop makers, BBC props, and wardrobe department. Everything now needs buying in. How much more expensive does that make a production? Totally agree, and that's why he needs to be a spendthrift. He needs to be careful and value the money he's given in the blank check by Disney and the BBC. Instead of going, right, this week, darling, we're doing the robot revolution so we can do a joke about a toxic boyfriend. Next week, we're going to... Nah, waste of time, no narrative or dramatic impact. Don't make it. Seeing what else people have got. Daryl Joyce, I know I've got to get you one. I say it, you're available. You tell me when you're available, and I keep ballsing it up. But Daryl, I will try and get you one. He's an endless source of terrible ideas, but you're not, Daryl. That's why I want to get you one, and I need to get my act together on it. Julie, the reason he did the bi-generation was because he wasn't brave enough to have a gay black doctor and he wanted a backup. And I do wonder whether there was a rumour that the David Tennant 14th Doctor was a kind of backup, and I didn't buy that, but it looks as though it's just laid it bare for him to do that. It's an interesting one, isn't it? That we might be kind of going back onto that nonsense. And just to play catch up, because obviously I'll give you the names who have been mooted. Richard, you've been very generous. Sorry, Goldie, I wasn't clear. It's not just Doctor Who lacks good writers, it's generational. And you've listed some other IPs. They also from Talentless Hacks. Well, I always quote Star Trek Discovery saying it's just women in a corridor waffling on about what's their menstrual cycle instead of, can you just solve that planet issue, please? I just think, oh, for God's sake. So
at the same time, I find when people point out information like that, it's worth also pointing out that, you know, I know a lot of people blame my sort of generation, the younger generation, for the failures of entertainment today and all facets of life, really. They always blame us. But really, when you look at the people in charge, it is these people like RTD who are in their 60s. It's people who are around that sort of age that are actually ballsing everything up. So when people say, oh, we shouldn't even consider having someone in their late 20s or 30s because, oh, they're one of these youngsters that are ruining our ways. Really, when you take a deep look, it's actually people from previous generations that are really shifting things towards the worst. So, yeah, I just thought I'd point that out.
That's fine. And obviously I say thank you to people when they do super chats. I'm running out of my thank you, so I'll throw one in very quickly before we get the names of the showrunners that are in the running.
I understand you've lost a couple of scientists. Oh no.
What's wrong? It's Gooch. It's Gooch.
Look for yourself.
Gooch must have left in quite a hurry.
Yes. Yes, he must.
There you go, if that's a thanks. Right, okay, names, here we go. So Mike Tai, obviously we can mention for a minute, in a moment, he's been pushed forward. Jack Thorne, Lord of the Flies, he's made for the BBC, but he's also written and been involved in Skins and Shameless and the This Is England series, The Fades, His Dark Materials, Toxic Town, The Hack and Falling. So Jack Thorne is apparently favoured by the BBC. Now that list
isn't that the guy behind that Adolescent show as well?
I didn't see that on his biography, but you might. I don't know, but the list I saw, his Dark Materials, he's adapted it from a book, The Fades. You know, The Hack obviously was more of a docudrama type thing, but The Lord of the Flies, which we haven't seen yet, maybe you know that he's more present. Neil Cross is mentioned. Neil Cross did Luther, Spooks, Hard Sun. He wrote for Doctor Who, The Rins of Akaten, Hyde, and he's also come up with his own series, and one of them, The Mosquito Coast. Miguel Sapochnik, is it? House, Train Spotting. He's done some Game of Thrones episodes, Iron Fist, Altered Carbon, Three Body Problem. He's also the co-showrunner of House of Dragon. And Sally Wainwright is mentioned. Happy Valley, Gentleman Jack, Renegade Nell, Last Tango in Halifax, Scott and Bailey, Unforgiven, At Home with the Braithwaites. And I can see the thread are agreeing with you, Goldie, so good call out. Adolescence as well. So he's got Keir Starmer's vote. The Sally Wainwright one bothers me. She's successful. Can't knock her. What she does is successful, but it's not Doctor Who. And it's never been a hint of Doctor Who. And she likes her female leads. There's nothing wrong with that. But Doctor Who is a... So when people were saying earlier, I'm thinking if Sally Wainwright got it, I think we can guarantee the 16th Doctor might be Joanna Lumley. What do you think, Goldie?
Well, a lot of those names, they have some good credits behind them. But, I mean, in this day and age where everything's so uncertain, I wonder if it doesn't really matter if they have those good credits behind them, because a lot of people, including myself, when RTD was announced to be coming back, along with all the people at Bad Wolf, we all thought, right, well, since Doctor Who, they've created these shows. Bad Wolf has a lot of good productions behind them, but that didn't really mean anything when it came to Doctor Who. It was just, you know, a shit show. So I wonder if they did bring these people in who've worked on Game of Thrones and all these big spectacular shows, would it really matter? Or would the BBC start clapping their hands saying you have to do this and they just go along with it? So, I mean, who is picked for showrunner and what they say once they're announced, that will be telling us the direction of Doctor Who in the future. But yeah, it's one of those things where, you know, I can see people getting excited and saying it should be this person, it should be that person. And of course, we do need a competent leader in the captain's seat, as it were. But at the same time, the BBC are really the top dogs when it comes to how Doctor Who is managed. So you could get the best person imaginable, but it's really the BBC as well that need looking at when it comes to the health of Doctor Who. So like Stephen Moffat, I'm sure that Stephen Moffat believes the same things as RTD and Chibnall and all that lot. But with Moffat in particular, I don't believe Moffat is necessarily woke. I believe he has a lot of the same ideological leanings, but Moffat does come across as more of a reasonable guy. He's been on X for quite a while now, and he's willing to talk to fans, and he has, to his credit, said, I shouldn't have done those Dalek redesigns. They were crap. That's all on me. Yes, I take fault for that. And he has taken responsibility for a lot of things that weren't well received in his era. He comes across as a genuine guy. And I think when it comes to the later Capaldi stuff, that was really the BBC that were pushing all of that. So you can have the best person with the best intentions, but really, if the BBC are still in the way they are, then Doctor Who's never going to really change.
Well, thanks for updating us on what Stephen Moffat said. I haven't followed some of those, but that's humility, and good for him. Self-criticism is a big thing. I think he's an intelligent writer. I've liked his other stuff as well, and he's written good sitcoms and everything. He's a clever man. Much sharper than our friend RTD, but thanks for saying that, because I think everybody deserves credit when credit's due, and for somebody to say I made a mistake, I think is up there. Hartnell's Ghost, just before I come to Mark, Anthony Horowitz, Foyle's War, etc. He's a Doctor Who fan. Why not him? Farsight thought Altered Carbon was good, so I suppose that's a bit of a vote for who was it? I've got to remember who it is now. Miguel, although the BBC know that's a long shot. Farsight, I'm getting my language wrong. Garbage, who obviously does our AI and his own. No one said Phoebe Waller-Bridge, thank goodness. Yeah, she got hold of James Bond, and look what happened there. Steve's Ace, good to see you. His Dark Material is produced by Bad Wolf, so no to him. Yeah, he's in-house, you see. Daryl Joyce, House of Dragon guy, sounds like the best option. BBC, though, still a problem. So people are giving their vote. I'm just getting up to the screen, and then I'll get back to you, Mark, don't worry. Nicola says, to be fair to Sally Wainwright, Gentleman Jack was brilliant. As I said, very successful. There's shows I'm going to watch in my dotage that I've not seen yet, like Last Tango in Halifax. I saw it at Home with the Braithwaite's. What she writes is good. It's a bit... I think she seems, and I don't want to slight her like this, but Sally Wainwright, and she's a friend of RTD, she seems to be in the same genre as RTD. She's actually been more successful than RTD. But I feel as though if you got rid of RTD and swapped it with Sally, you've just got a female version with a bit more success, and you will get a female doctor. Clive Barker says Lee Smith. I'm just, like I said, trying to get everybody up to speed. Poor Mark is waiting to come in with all his juicy ideas, no doubt. But I'm just trying to make sure. And obviously, I just want to do due courtesy, because, Richard, you've been very generous tonight. I didn't say it was Goldie's generation. He's right. It is the previous one to a large degree. But it is elements of the younger generation that are lapping it up. However, the result is the same. Yeah, I don't think it's quite a generational thing. I think we've lost the Malcolm Hulks. I think we've lost the Terence Dicks. I think we've lost the Terry Nations. That's a fact. They were brought up in the 60s of TV writing. We've just lost those people. And it is a different style now. And like I said, Sally Wainwright is more akin to RTD, that kind of thing. Mark, you've been waiting patiently there. What are your thoughts on, if you don't know the name of a showrunner, the type of show and whoever ran that, you'd like them to run Doctor Who?
I mean, you hit on an interesting point there, which I would agree with, is that we are unfortunately in an era where we're beyond the early years of TV where there was a lot of risk taking and people just throwing ideas out and seeing if it would work. Now it seems to be that there's far too many cooks spoiling the broth, and it's really to generate money. And unfortunately, productions left, right, and centre from Hollywood to the UK are losing money hand over fist. And unfortunately, I think whatever decision is going to be made is going to be guided by the purse strings more than anything. To be honest with you, it goes back to what I was saying earlier. We throw all these names out as if we put a showrunner on a pedestal, but as Goldie's pointed out, we all thought Russell T Davies coming back would be that it would automatically be a hit, but you're only as good as your last project, and we've seen how much it's floundered in recent years. So, do we need to know who this showrunner is? As long as they come in and they've got a good idea and do a good job, I don't really mind who is at the helm. It doesn't really matter to me whether they've done Gentleman Jack or they've done House of the Dragon, as long as they've got a good idea that will drive storytelling and escapism and jeopardy and all those things that are the foundations of what Doctor Who is all about. That's all I care about.
Charlie Brooker gets a mention straight away there. Stephen O'Neill. I'm seeing loads mentioned here. My source mentions Toby Whitehouse. He says, why not Toby Whitehouse? That would be a good choice. So he was obviously talking about Bad Wolf staying on. We all have our bets on. If RT gets his own way, he passes the baton to somebody who's just going to do him. And it'll be the same ideas. So Pete McTighe is the in-house favourite, but we've all just seen 3 of his episodes, parts 2, 3, and 4 of the Sea Devil thing. And, well, I'll do a rating show tomorrow with John, as I always do. And, yeah, it's not good. As my source says, a clean break with a new team will be much wiser strategically. A return to the last era just reminds everyone how bad it was, so you have to question the wisdom of the BBC executives' decisions already by using RTD. But maybe this is just one last hurrah. And then he also said they are probably the only British production company that can do it, Bad Wolf, with all the infrastructure. So that's maybe why we're going to stick with the Bad Wolf. The trouble is, Bad Wolf like Pete McTighe, because he's worked with them. And so the in-house thing, The best way would be to get Rob Sheeman, Toby Whitehouse, another good writer, to clean it all up, says my source, who doesn't want a Doctor Who special written by RTD, but you don't get that. Stephen O'Neill is now saying Gareth Roberts. So basically, we've done a right rollicking, space-hopping ride, not Guardians of the Galaxy style, through all the leaks and details there. I'll be on again tomorrow, but first of all, Goldie, is there anything I've missed out or something you thought you never got a chance to say regarding all these leaks and rumours and nonsense?
No, I believe we've covered everything.
Cool. Well, thanks and Happy New Year to you, Goldie, and thanks for coming on. It was a last-minute thing today. It was going to be a solo 20-minuter, and then suddenly I thought this topic was too big for just me on my own, because people like to hear a diversity of opinions. And Thread, you've been on fire. Mark, you also got my lastminute.com SOS. So thanks for that, and thanks for dropping everything and coming on here. It's been a pleasure.
No problem at all.
Have you missed anything out from our 2 hours or so?
I think all I would say is that there's a famous quote about doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different outcome. I hope that isn't what we're seeing here. Get the same people in to do the same thing and hope it'll turn out differently in the end.
Very much so. Everybody, you've been a dream tonight. You've been very generous. It's a Happy New Year. Me and John hopefully will be back tomorrow talking about the ratings. We love to do that. I did a short because I was with the in-laws. I couldn't do much, but I've got lots of details. So hopefully see you all tomorrow. Have a good night, everybody. So is there something good on the telly, like Night Manager or something? So thank you, Goldie. Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Thread. See you again. We'll be back. Bye.
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 RTD wants sensory shutdown. Those hoopets have had the last hand up them. Time to die. This is giving me the creeps. This never happened on Finger Bobs. One by one, they're all mine. They don't like it up 'em. All this walking, I wish I had my Benidorm motor scooter. Cry havoc!